Hello everyone, this is Brian Lagunas and welcome to the sixth video in this multi-part series on building IG Outlook. In the last video we implemented navigation and our very own MVVM framework, our own custom brew. So let's run the app of where we're at right now. So currently we've set up our regions for injecting groups. We have some navigation as we navigate to our items. We have new views injected on this side. So now what we want to do in this video is, if you remember in Outlook, when you switch between different groups or navigation items, you have ribbon tabs that change depending on the view that you're in, right? So we need to create an infrastructure that allows you to easily add and remove ribbon tabs that are contextual and dependent on the view that is currently being injected in this region. So remember, we have two different regions here. We have a region for our main content and we have a separate region for our ribbons. So we need to find a way to make all this stuff work together. Okay, and there's a couple of ways you could do this. There's tons of approaches to do many things. The approach I'm going to take today is, I got an email through my blog a while back asking me what would be a good use of a custom region behavior. I haven't really talked about behaviors. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create an infrastructure that allows me to attribute a view with a type of tab, and through that attribute and the use of a custom region behavior, we're going to tie all this stuff together and our navigation is going to work perfectly with injecting our ribbon tabs. So with every video, what we need to start with is some infrastructure. So the first thing I'm going to add, it's going to go ahead and add a new class. This is actually going to be an interface, ribbon tab item. Okay, let's change this to an interface. Now this is going to have two properties. I need an iView model because we need to make sure that the view model, the data context for the ribbon, is the same as the view that's being injected in the content region, right? So let's put a property here so we can handle that. And then I need a property to let me know when to select or to select a ribbon tab item. So this is when we're navigating to a new view, we need to know what ribbon tab to select. So I'm just going to write when it's selected. Okay, great, and I'm weird, so I'm going to go ahead and clean all that up. Now, because I'm using the Infragistics XAM ribbon control, I'm actually going to create another class. I'm going to call this ribbon tab item. Now, this is going to derive from the XAM ribbon tab item. And also implement our iRibbon tab item interface. So this is going to be a very simple implementation. We've done this before. So our get is simply going to return iView model of our data context. And then our set, you guessed it, data context equals value. So you're going to be asking yourself, wait a minute, bro. We have a isSelected property on this interface. Why do we not have to declare that here? That's because the XAM ribbon tab item has an isSelected property already defined. So we're just exposing that through our interface here. Let's go ahead, clean all that up. Now, here comes a little tricky part. This is where you have to make a decision. What's going to be responsible for maintaining the list of tabs and tracking all that information and navigating to it? What's going to be responsible for all that? Well, in my world, my view base is going to be responsible for that. A ribbon tab is going to be associated with a view. Okay, it's going to have a view. So in my world, my view is going to have knowledge of the ribbon tabs it's responsible for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this interface, I'm going to add I list, go ahead and add our using statement there, I list of I ribbon tab item, call it ribbon tabs, put a getter on it. Come back to our view base, go ahead and implement that. It's stuck it way down here. I'm going to move it. Great, and we can get rid of all that. Okay, so now we have a list of tabs. So our view is going to keep track of a list of ribbon tab controls that we're going to be managing. So if you remember, this view base implements and participates inside of the Prism navigation framework, right? So we're going to scroll on down to the onNavigatedFrom and onNavigatedTo methods. So when we're navigating away from the view, we're going to want to be removing the tabs from the region, right? So we're going to do a check. If the region manager is not null, because remember, it's possible that this view doesn't, participate with the region manager, doesn't need an instance. We're going to get the region. Region manager, regions, region names dot, and I think this is the ribbon tab region. So now that we have our region, our tab region, we're going to say ribbon tabs to list for each tab region dot remove. Now you're going to say, oh, wait a minute, that didn't work. That's because we need to add using system.link. Come back down here. Now we should have our IntelliSense and all that great stuff works. Okay, so now when we navigate to a view, we want to loop through all the ribbon tabs and add them to a region. So instead of retyping all that, copy, paste, the only part that's going to change is this part. Nice little lambda here. Tab region.add tab. Okay, cool. Let's just build this. Now, let's go back to our region adapter for the ribbon, because we never finished this. Remember, we said we'd come back to it. Well, we're coming back to it. We just need to implement these two methods here: add view to region, remove view from region. So I'm just going to simply paste this code in here because it's so simple. Now keep in mind, this region adapter is a very simple region adapter. It's not very complex. It's not very functional. It just basically adds ribbon tabs to the ribbon. Okay. If you want to handle contextual ribbon tabs and things like that, you're going to want to modify this region adapter to handle a more complex scenario. So what we're doing here is add view to region. We're getting the view as a ribbon tab item, and we're adding that to the tabs collection of the ribbon. And for remove, we're doing the same thing. We're just removing. Okay, seems pretty simple. Great, we're done here. All right, so I'm gonna close these down. So actually, let me open up the view base again, and let's look at this. So we have these ribbon tabs, and we're handling when we're navigating away or navigating to it, we're handling all the adding and removing of the tabs to the region. But how are we going to create the tabs and place them into the ribbon tabs collection, this I list that's on this interface? Well, you could do it in code if you wanted, but I'm going to use a custom region behavior with the help of an attribute. So basically, what I want to be able to do in my application is I'm going to have a view, say this mail view, and I want to simply put an attribute at the top of this view for every tab that I want to add to this view. And when I do that, I want the tab view to be created for me. I want the data context to be set to the view model of this view, and then added to the collection that's on this view base, and then have all that stuff created so when I navigate to and from, they're being created, data context is set, and they're being injected into my region in the tab, in my ribbon. So yeah, it's pretty complex. It sounds confusing. So let's just start one step at a time. I'm going to come down and I'm going to create an attribute. So I'm going to create a class, ribbon, tab, attribute. All right, so let's go ahead, say attribute usage. If you've never created an attribute, it's actually quite simple. This is going to be a class, allow multiple, of course, because we're definitely going to want more than one attribute on our view because we're going to have multiple ribbons. I want to have a type, so public type, we'll say private set. And then of course we're going to need a constructor here. Which is going to take our type, tab type, and then what we want to do is simply set the type equal to the ribbon tab type. And when you're using attributes, I'm going to just copy and paste this in. It's always helpful to add some exceptions in there. So basically, if the ribbon type is null, which we don't want, we got to throw an exception. And if the base type isn't a ribbon tab item, then we got to say, hey, this isn't supported, wrong type. So now that we have the ribbon tab attribute, we need to create the behavior that's going to handle instantiating our ribbon tabs that we define and adding them to our view base and all that great stuff, right? So I'm going to go ahead and close this. So now let's go ahead and go into our Prism folder, and we're going to create a new class. I'm going to name this the XAM ribbon region behavior. Okay, and this is going to derive from region behavior. We also want to add a little constant here because we want to eliminate as many magic strings as possible. This is going to be used as the key for this behavior, and you'll see where that comes in handy. So the method we really care about is this onAttached, right? This is the method that's executed whenever this behavior is attached to the region. But I only care about one region, right? I don't want this to be attached to every single region. I just want this to be attached to the content region. So I'm going to say, hey, if the region name is content region, okay, now I'm going to start hooking into some stuff. Region.activeViews, collection changed. That'll work. And we'll just clean this up a little bit. All right, so now I'm just going to go ahead and paste this code in here so you don't have to sit here and watch me type it all, because it might get kind of boring. We'll walk through it. Okay, so basically what we're doing is whenever a new view is added, and remember the region we're handling right now is the content region. So whenever a new view is navigated to and injected into the content region, we're going to loop through all the new items. We're going to say, hey, Are you an iView base? If we don't have an iView base, then we don't care about this. We're going to go to the next item in our new items collection that we have. Otherwise, we're going to say, hey, do you have any ribbons created, right? You have any ribbon tabs? Because if we've already gone through this and we've already created ribbon tabs, so we don't want to create them again. Then what we do is we check the attributes, right? We're going to check if this view has a ribbon tab attribute we've just created. If it does, we're going to create an instance of that tab item. And remember that interface we had, right? This is where that comes in handy. We're going to say, hey, set the view model property of our tab item to the same view model of our view. And this basically sets the data context of our tab item to the same data context of our view, right? So that keeps in sync. This allows any buttons that may exist in our tab item to execute commands that exist on our view model, right? And gives you access to any objects or properties and state that you need. Then we add that newly created item to the ribbon tabs collection of the view. And we're going to set the is selected to is first, right? This logic basically, we're just going to pre-select the first tab in the collection. You might want to add logic in here that says, hey, you know, if I have a property says is default equals true, then you can control which tabs are selected by default. But in this case, we're just going to select the first one in the list. Okay, so that's all that does. So now we need to do a couple more things. We have all the infrastructure in place, okay? But now we have to go to our bootstrapper and we have to let our Prism app know about our newly created region behavior. Luckily, this is very simple to do. What we need to do is simply override the configure default region behaviors method. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, once again, so you don't have to sit here and watch me type everything, I'm just going to paste in some code. Basically, I'm getting all the default behaviors that I've already created by our base implementation. And then I'm going to add our XAMPP region behavior. Remember that constant we created, behavior key, the type, to the behaviors collection, and then return the behaviors. Okay, cool. So now all of our infrastructure is in place. We got it. All we need to do now is create a ribbon tab item and attribute a view that we want to add that tab to. So let's close our bootstrapper. We're done in here. Let's go to our module, and under menus, right click, we're going to add a new item. This is going to be a user control. I will call this home tab. Of course, you can call it whatever you want, but home tab sounds good to me. Now the next thing I'm going to do is delete all this stuff inside here, all this stuff because I don't care about it, and I'm going to add a namespace to our infrastructure project. This is where our tab item exists. Then I'm going to say inf ribbon tab item. And of course we have to close it off. So now we have a ribbon tab item. Now this also has a header property. I'll call it mail home tab. Let's go to our code. We don't need that. And we can clean all this stuff up. Okay, we created a tab. If you wanted to, you can come in here and start adding groups and buttons and all that wonderful stuff, but I just want to demonstrate the process of the tabs being injected. So now what we need to do is we need to go to our view, go to the code behind, and I'm going to add the ribbon tab. Remember the attribute we created? And I think, see, this is where I wish I was in front of a group, because everyone would have pointed out to me that I forgot to actually derive from attribute. Okay, there we go. So now that we have that, we can continue on. Type of, and this is Home tab. Great. So we have basically just registered the Home tab we created with our view. So what do we have here? So actually, I need to go ahead and start changing this, moving this stuff over to WPF. So give me about 3 seconds, and let me do that so we can get a build. All right, sorry about that. I went through the WPF side and transferred all the work we just did over to the WPF side so we can get a build. So now that we're building, let's go ahead and run the app and see what we get. So here's our default view. Of course, no ribbon tab. Now the expectation is the second I click inbox, we're going to navigate to the mail view, and our mail home tab should pop up at the top. And there it is. So that means when I navigate away from here and go to the personal folders, the default view, which has no ribbon tabs, the mail home tab should disappear. And it's gone. So pretty cool, right? So let's say that you have another view or another tab you want to inject. Well, it's simple. You can go ahead and just start adding tabs to any view that you want and just attribute it with the tab. Run the app. Now the expectation is we should have many home tabs up here. Pretty slick, right? So that's it for this video. As you can see, we successfully accomplished creating an infrastructure that allows us to have a very flexible ability to add tabs to views, and we can actually share those tabs across multiple views with the use of a single attribute. So pretty cool. If you have any questions, be sure to contact me through my blog, brianlagunas.com, or just leave a comment below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.